Welcome to the news on Zodiac. You're with me, Robert Karua. The headlines. Lilongwe Girls Secondary School students isolated on campus demand proof of their positive COVID-19 test results. ILO calls on government to scale up social protection initiatives in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. MCB says it will take time to replace departed executive Civic Mia in sports, Mighty Wanderers executive U-turns decision to sell the club's bus. Now the news in detail. Lilongwe Girls Secondary School students who are in isolation on campus have asked authorities to provide proof of their positive COVID-19 test, or else they should be allowed to go back home. The students held protests Thursday accusing school authorities of a lackluster approach in providing care and enforcement of preventive measures. However, Ministry of Education spokesperson Kwagwanji has said that the students should heed the call to remain in school.
Students that are still on campus at Lilongwe Girls Secondary School demonstrated against their continued stay at the school on the basis that they tested positive to COVID-19. They claim that they have not been provided with test certificates as evidence that they have the virus. One of the students, who are 311 in total, say the expectation was that they would be getting special diet and strict observation of the COVID-19 regulations, which is not the case, to their surprise.
The administration is not being honest with us because, we hear other information from outside campuses. As the administration is supposed to be responsible and be telling us the facts, but then they are not telling us, and then we have to be getting the information from other people, which is not fair. School authorities declined to comment on this matter. But a spokesperson for the Ministry of Education, Kwagwanji, says the students should heed the call to remain in school, insisting government is providing them with physical fitness services and nutritional diet.
The ministry has been supporting them with the nutritious food, so that if we all get all the 6 food groups, the body is able to fight COVID-19 on its own. So the ministry has been supporting them in that regard. We believe that has been helpful to the students. But I believe that's one of the reasons why they are saying, no, we are okay, because they are not feeling anything.
On Thursday, police was called in to control the students who took their demonstrations to the neighborhood. Lilongwe Girls Secondary is currently keeping only those that are said to have tested positive for COVID-19. For Zodiac in Lilongwe, this is Western Guta reporting.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education is contemplating on summoning head teachers of boarding schools across the country who defied government directive to releasing students without certifying them coronavirus-free. Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Chikondano Musa, told Zodiac that the Ministry wants the head teachers to explain why they allowed students to go back home, and those that will not provide convincing reasons will be disciplined. Musa, however, did not indicate when this will be done.
On January 17, President Lazarus Chakwera announced closure of schools in the country with immediate effect as one way of curbing further spread of COVID-19.
All schools will close for 3 weeks, but students in boarding schools will remain in their respective campuses until health authorities assess the severity of infection in those schools to determine whether it is safe for those students to go home.
However, some head teachers in selected boarding schools released students in their facilities before authorization from health officials. The Ministry of Education has since resolved to summon all head teachers whose learners were sent back home, defying the presidential order. Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Chikondano Musa, says at least 45% of boarding schools have sent home all their students.
In all these things, the rules of natural justice matter, and we have to hear them first. What were the circumstances in which they released children against the directive? We have to find that out.
Education expert Benedicto Kondowe has since welcomed the idea, saying it will help government understand better on what happened, which in turn will enable it work on shortfalls.
There's nothing wrong for the ministry to engage with the concerned schools for them to be fully informed as to what had happened, because I think there were a lot of issues emerging from that particular scenario.
Meanwhile, government is expected to give a direction on the future of school opening at least by end of next week.
The International Labour Organization, ILO, has called on government to scale up social protection initiatives to Malawians as the country continues battling the COVID-19 pandemic. ILO National Coordinator for Malawi, Regan Kaluruma, says the pandemic has left many Malawians jobless, hence the need for increased social protection fronts. The 2018 National Statistical Office report indicates that 50% of Malawians, about 9 million people, are poor and may need social protection support, but only 2 million have access to social cash transfer programs. In Ncheu, health authorities have turned a TB ward into a COVID-19 emergency treatment unit following pressure caused by a rise in transmissions. Director of Health and Social Services at the District Council, Dr. Stephen Macheso, told us Wednesday that the initial treatment unit only had bed capacity of 3 patients. 30 health workers at the district referral facility have so far tested positive for coronavirus.
Cheu say the TB ward at the district hospital has been turned into an isolation ward following a spike in new COVID-19 cases in the district. Director of Health and Social Services at the District Council, Dr. Stephen Macheso, told us the hospital currently has no TB patients, hence the decision. The TB ward has a 20-bed capacity. He, however, said one room within the hospital has been turned into a TB ward to avoid creating a gap on TB treatment.
We're going to sit down and make a proper plan. The needs are just so huge. But the money that he has given to us, it will make a difference. It will help us to push 1 or 2 things. So we're still asking for more people out there that can come and support. Let them come.
As of Wednesday, the isolation ward had 5 COVID-19 patients. Meanwhile, Cheu Central Legislator Dr. Albert Mbawala has responded to the call by authorities with a 2 million kwacha cash donation to the facility.
As individuals, we can also assist in this fight. We are in this fight together. I know, as the DHO said, that they've got so many problems in this hospital. And this said the money will be put into good use. So my expectation is simple, that the money will be put into good use. They will be accountable to the transactions.
Since April to date, over 300 people have tested positive to coronavirus in the district, with 3 deaths. Out of the positive cases in the district, 30 are health care workers.
Female sex workers have petitioned government to consider relaxing some COVID-19 rules, among them restricting drinking joints operating for them to operate normally. In Lilongwe, the aggrieved sex workers marched from Lilongwe Community Centre ground to civic offices after their petition was turned down at Lilongwe District Commissioner's office. Executive Director for the Sex Workers Association, Zinena Mibawa, told us they are also concerned with the stigma related to their business operations and accused the police of abusing them. Meanwhile, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has reiterated that the tendency of seeking medical attention late by most Malawians is responsible for many COVID-19 related deaths. Co-chairperson of the task force, Dr. John Puka, speaking during a COVID-19 update last evening, said still many people go to the hospital when the situation gets critical, thereby making it difficult for health workers to handle.
I would like to first express that most of those that we are losing, it is because they are coming in late, and some are even brought dead. Therefore, we would like to encourage that people come to the hospital as early as possible. We have capacity and bed space in the hospitals to take care of you. Do not stay at home. Do not stay at home, more especially when you begin to feel shortness of breath. This is very important. Even if you're talking to somebody who is sick, check for shortness of breath, because we have noticed that most of the cases, they will be able to say things that are logical as if they're not sick. So it's very, very important that we look at severity of the disease. The other thing that I would want to comment on is use of herbs. Let's make sure that if we need anything, use in moderation. But otherwise, normal diet is extremely important so that you don't stress your bodies with concoctions that usually have a mix of different chemicals like alkaloids, and these may cause damage to your liver and kidneys and even accelerate your downfall. So it is very, very important that we are clearly making sure that we control, and also they disrupt the sugar control systems.
You're watching the news here on Zodiac. We'll be back with more after this.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Precious things have a secret formula. While John is busy trying to impress, James discovered Tangu's secret. Tangu uses Purity sanitary products from Purity body wash, Purity hands wash, Purity body lotion to Purity dishwash. After a week of using Purity sanitary products, James won the heart of Tangu. Use Purity sanitary products.
Amalawanzanga, kodi mukudziwa chiyani za lamulo lomwe limaumiriza adindo osankhika kuwulula zachuma, ngongole komanso mabizinesi omwe ali nawo. Lamuloli limathandiza kuti adindo agwire ntchito mokhulupirika, motsata ndondomeko komanso mosabisa kuti asazikundikire chuma mwachinyengo. Ndi udindo wathu wa Malawi kuonetsetsa kuti adindo sakupindula mosayenera ndi maudindo ndi ntchito zaboma zomwe ali nazo, ndipo kuti sakugwiritsa ntchito maudindo omwe ali nawo molakwika. Dziwani zambiri za Audipod komanso zomwe adindo aulula ku bungweli pofunsa ku maofesi a bungweli ku Catholic Secretariat Area 11 ku Lilongwe. Muthanso kudziwa zambiri za bungwe la Audipod ku maofesi a bungwe la NICE omwe muli nawo pafupi. Tengawo ukukufikani kuchokera ku Office of the Director of Public Officers Declarations, Audipod.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Welcome back. You're with me, Robert Karua. Before we continue with the news, let's take another look at the headlines. Lilongwe Girls Secondary School students isolated on campus demand proof of their positive COVID-19 test results. ILO calls on government to scale up social protection initiatives in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. MCP says it will take time to replace departed executives Sidik Mia and Linson Belikanyama. And in sports, Wanderers executive U-turns decision to sell club's bus. Moving on with the news, Chairperson of the Malawi Electoral Commission, Dr. Chifundo Kachali, has said COVID-19 is not only a medical problem, but also a mental one, which calls for a public to consciously handle its messages. Dr. Kachali told us today that the fear that came about with COVID-19 is making people wrongly diagnose themselves, even without visiting health facilities. St. John of God Hospital Services psychologist Ndumanene Sulungwe agrees with Kachali, adding that people need to prepare their mind by, among other things, using examples of those that have recovered.
Chairperson of the Malawi Electoral Commission, MEC, who is also the High Court Judge, Dr. Chifundo Kachali, has urged the general public to handle COVID-19 messages with care to win the fight against the pandemic. Dr. Kachali says COVID-19 is also a mental challenge which requires mindset change and the ability to positively receive results when one tests positive for coronavirus. He said self-condemnation when one is diagnosed with COVID-19 is not necessary.
The manner in which you handle the bad news can actually either escalate the problem or actually give you an opportunity to deal with the problem. So my point is that when the medical diagnosis has been given that you're COVID positive, it is very important that you receive that news with a mindset that does not reduce a diagnosis for positive COVID to a death penalty.
St. John of God Hospital Services psychologist Ndumanene Sirungwe agrees with Dr. Kachale, adding that people need to prepare their mind by, among other things, using examples of those that recovered. He adds that, as it stands, more volunteers are needed to offer counseling to those testing positive for COVID-19.
Those of us that have a skill like that can listen to people, maybe other than just actually waiting for services, we might actually possibly now give out our personal numbers so that maybe people can also call, other than actually maybe just wanting that maybe this service should be a contribution.
Official statistics show that the majority of those that tested positive for COVID-19 have recovered. For Zodiak in Lilongwe, this is Western Guda reporting.
The Malawi Congress Party has admitted that it will take time for it to find replacements for its two executive members, Sidik Mia and Lingson Bilikanyama. Party spokesperson Reverend Maurice Mutali told us they cannot start thinking of their replacements now, as they are still mourning the two, promising to come out in the open with replacements when the time is right. Political commentator Augustine Magolowondo says MCP's decision portrays how important the two were to the party. Happy Jeromano has more.
The Malawi Congress Party lost its Vice President Sidik Mia and Director of Social Affairs Lingson Bilikanyama on 12 January this year to COVID-19. The two positions remain vacant. Spokesperson for the party, Reverend Maurice Muntali, says the death of the two hit the party hard, that they cannot start thinking about replacements now.
We are so shocked, we are so devastated by the loss of these two senior members of the Malawi Congress Party. So as of now, there is no discussion at all about how we replace the two senior leaders, because we are mourning together with our president, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. We want to condole with the bereaved family and all the relations, and there will be a time when the Malawi Congress Party is going to sit down and see how we can fill the vacant posts left by the senior members who have departed.
Meanwhile, political analyst Augustine Magolowondo says he's not surprised to see the party showing a human face on the matter.
In a situation where you are still mourning, it will look a bit awkward to quickly rush it through replacing. In terms of political party work, they don't have anything so imminent to deal with, like elections, for instance. So I think there's that particular aspect of demonstrating a human face of the party. I think going forward, one would indeed expect that this position have to be filled, but the key issue is how they are going to fill those positions.
At the time of their death, Sidik Mia was also Minister of Transport, while Lingson Bilikanyama was heading local government ministry in the Tonse Alliance government.
Now let's go into sports segment. Mighty Wanderers executive has reversed its decision to sell the club's bus donated by former President Peter Mutharika. The club's chairperson Simon Sekwese told us that decision follows consultation with stakeholders, where it transpired that majority were against the idea. The idea was meant to source funds, and now the executive says it will look for other means of sourcing the funds. Bright Kanyama has a report.
Mighty Wanderers chairperson Simon Sekwese told us that they carried out an initiative consulting relevant stakeholders, including the supporters, regarding the idea to sell the club's bus due to financial challenges that the team is going through, but the results are showing that the majority is against the idea. Sekwese then said this has forced them to make a U-turn and not sell the bus, instead look for other alternative of sourcing funds. He added that they are planning to strengthen the Nomayanga Nomayatu SMS initiative, as well as urgently looking for a sponsor.
We have to listen to the views of other people.
So you see that proposal or suggestion hasn't been carried forward, and the bus will always be there unless otherwise things change. You may be aware that December and January we haven't yet paid our players, and we know that they're supposed to be paying their rentals. So we really need the resources. People are expressing interest, but most of them are also complaining that they've been hard hit by the COVID. We are also trying as much as possible to make sure that the Wanderers Younger campaign should pick up, and I'm just very hopeful that supporters are going to be understanding to support our football team.
The Wanderers bus was a donation from former head of state Peter Mutharika prior to the 2020 elections. The Laluban boys are financially unstable after parting ways with B Forward Limited last month and are yet to settle the December and January player and official compensations. For Zodiac, this is Bright Kanyama.
That item brings us to the end of the newscast, but before we go, a recap of the top stories. Students isolated on campus demand proof of their positive COVID-19 test results. ILO calls on government to scale up social protection initiatives in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. MCP says it will take time to replace departed executives Sidik Mia and Linkson Birikanyama. In sports, Mighty Wanderers executive U-turns decision to sell the club's bus. Visit our website, zodiacmalawi.com, for more news. Remember that wearing of face mask and frequent washing of hands with soap aids in containing the spread of the coronavirus. I'm Robert Kalua.
Nkhani yabwino kuchokera ku Kambewu Organic Fertilizer Company. Alimi tsopano mutha kugula fetereza wa organic otsika mtengo kuchokera ku kampani ya Kambewu Organic Fertilizer. Fetereza wa Kambewu Organic ndio uvomerezeka ndi akatswiri za ulimi ndinso boma la Malawi akupezeka